What if everything the world believes about North Korea is a carefully crafted lie? What if behind the famine, the isolation, and the terrifying image, there's actually a thriving utopia? And what if that paradise isn't even on the surface, but hidden deep underground? Welcome to one of the strangest conspiracy theories still circulating online. North Korea is secretly a utopia. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome anyone who is new. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so today we are going over the wacky conspiracy theory that North Korea is not a brutal, repressive regime, dictator, but is actually a utopia. Yes, this is actually a conspiracy theory that people believe. Okay, so let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so the basic idea is pretty straightforward, but it's also pretty outrageous. So it's kind of, I guess, piggybacks off of this idea that the government lies about everything, so that they're obviously could be lying about North Korea and it's all propaganda to make us think North Korea is one way when it's not, like Western propaganda. And so the basic idea isn't that North Korea is starving and under a oppressive dictatorship the way it's portrayed in Western media, but it's actually a highly successful, self-sufficient, egalitarian society. And supporters will point to this ideology they have, Juche, I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but that they have true independence from foreign powers and capitalist exploitation, no cutthroat consumerism or extreme inequality, strong social cohesion, preserved traditional culture, low crime, free healthcare, education, and a focus on collective welfare. They'll also point to their impressive technology and military achievements despite sanctions. And so this version portrays the regime as successfully building a model society while being shielded from the outside world. Then there's the much wild underground version where people believe, and this all came from like a Reddit, what would it be called? It's like a writing prompt on Reddit, and then people have like ran with it as if it's like a true conspiracy theory, but I don't know if it actually is. But they believe that what we see on the surface of North Korea is just a facade, and that everybody lives in this beautiful utopia advanced civilization underground, and that they then have to have a lottery system that people draw from to get selected to live in the top part of, to show that at least some people live there um on the surface. So that's pretty wild. So, yeah, so in this version, the visible North Korea, the one we see in the news reports, is deliberately maintained as a poor, isolated facade, and that the real population lives in a pristine, high tech utopia underground. And every so often, a lottery selects citizens who must live on the surface for a period, sometimes portrayed as years, to keep the dystopian dictatorship illusion alive and to deter outsiders or invaders. This idea exploded after a 2015 Reddit prompt post that went massively viral. It describes a citizen winning the lottery to become the next supreme leader on the surface. The story was creative fiction, but conspiracy communities adopted it and expanded it. It perfectly explains the contradictions. Why does the regime seem so dysfunctional on the outside while claiming paradise? Why the extreme secrecy? The underground theory turns those questions into a neat, outlandish answer. And there's all these like tunnels and stuff too. So there is stuff underground, is the thing. So, you'll find this theory mostly all over TikTok in conspiracy iceberg videos or short explainers. Creators often dedicate segments or both versions with dramatic narration about the hidden pristine utopia below ground. On YouTube, you'll see videos like Is North Korea Actually a Utopia? That explore the surface version, highlighting the juke, self-reliance, and social stability as evidence of success. These are usually presented in a highly speculative and entertaining style. Podcast style channels and forbidden knowledge videos will also cover it, sometimes linking it to other wild ideas like nuclear related cover ups. The underground lottery concept remains especially popular because it feels like a clever world building that explains everything. These pieces thrive because North Korea's extreme isolation makes almost anything seem possible. So let's look at a few videos really quick on this. There's not that many that I could find. This mostly lives on TikTok, and I can't stand the TikTok app. Like, I don't think I use it properly or something. Like, I'm always, like, it's really hard to use for some reason. So every time I venture to TikTok, it's just like a disaster. Like, nothing works properly. Oh, but I did find this article, so maybe I'll pull that up first. It's very short. Okay, so North Korea, a misunderstood utopia, question mark. It's no secret that North Korea is one of the most closed off nations globally, often painted in a negative light by the international media. However, what if we dare to challenge the status quo? What if we, for a moment, choose to believe that North Korea is actually a utopia? Let's dive into this audacious thought experiment and take a look at some intriguing evidence that might suggest that. North Korea's self-sufficiency, juk. One of the pillars supporting the idea of North Korea utopia is the concept of juk, or self-reliance. It's North Korea's ideological bedrock, emphasizing independence in politics, economics, defense, and ideology. Though often criticized, this level of self-sufficiency and autonomy could be seen as an attempt to create an ideal society unaffected by external pressures. Minimal influence of capitalism. Unlike many other countries succumbing to the demands of capitalism, North Korea has remained relatively untouched by it. Consumerism and excessive competition, often the culprits behind social inequality and stress in capitalist societies, are minimized. The North Korean government provides for its citizens basic needs, contributing to a society where the rat race for survival is less prominent. Preserving cultural purity. North Korea's seclusion has allowed it to maintain and preserve its cultural heritage, relatively unadulterated by global influences. This cultural purity can be considered a unique feature of a utopian society where traditions and customs can flourish. Law and order. The law and order in North Korea are strict, ensuring a low crime rate. Despite criticisms over human rights from a purely crime prevention perspective, these laws have been effective in creating a stable society. Free education and healthcare. North Korea provides free healthcare and education to all its citizens, an ideal aspect of any utopian society. Such policies indicate an egalitarian approach, promoting the overall well-being of its population. North Korea's technological advances. Despite sanctions and global isolation, North Korea has shown remarkable progress in technology. Its nuclear capabilities and satellite launches are a testament to their advancements. suggesting a society capable of technological development independently. Okay, so here's a little section on controversies and criticisms. It's essential to balance this utopian perspective with the controversies surrounding North Korea. The lack of free speech, the existence of labor camps, and the accusations of human rights abuses cannot be ignored. The utopian perspective presents an alternative viewpoint of North Korea, moving away from the traditional dystopian narrative. By no means does this perspective aim to downplay the significant issues and controversies associated with the country. However, it's a thought-provoking exercise that highlights some aspects of the North Korean society that align with a utopian ideal. Okay, so obviously, I think it's a little ridiculous to say some of this stuff in that little blurb because you obviously don't know very much about North Korea if you're going to say things like, oh, they're not struggling with, oppressive capitalism and stuff like that because they we're going to get into it further into this video, but obviously if you know anything about North Korea, at least the cursory, which it is very secretive, but if you know anything about it, you would know that like some of those statements are ridiculous. And I think a lot of times with conspiracies is that people often don't know a whole lot about the topic that they're making a conspiracy about. And so it's really good to educate yourself on all topics, especially if you're going to pontificate about them. And nobody's perfect. I'm not either. But at least, some level of research is good. Okay, so let's play at least one of the videos I have. This video is going to be longer than the other Strange and Wacky World episodes. So, okay, so this is just like a weird short video that, I don't know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's like showing footage from Korea, like old footage, to imply that, like, the name of it is Laborwave, North Korea is a paradise. I'm just gonna play the weirdest stuff first. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to notice while we go through these videos about North Korea is you never see anybody around, which is one of the reasons why people think everyone lives underground. Okay, so that kind of when that kind of got spread and going, these type of things where you when you learn about tunnels and when you see this stuff and you're like, where the hell is everyone? That's why people think everyone lives underground. Okay, very strange. I'm going to read you guys the comments under this video. Okay, if North Korea wants to convince the world of their ideology, they really just have to make more vaporwave. How do I get deeper into the DPRK is a secret paradise rabbit hole? I have a lot of respect for the Cuban and Korean comrades. They were the only ones who kept their dignity and didn't gave themselves to revision like China and Vietnam. You guys in the comic section who believe that DPRK is really so wonderful as shown in this video, don't get fooled and please do some research on what actually is currently happening in the nation. All these DPRK sims in the comments make me laugh. Okay, so this video is really weird and it only talks about, like, it only just makes like one sentence or two about North Korea being a utopia. So I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing because it just seems to be playing like a bunch of just just saying conspiracy theories. I'm not really for sure what this is, but it
North Korea is a utopia refers to a controversial perspective that the democratic
full link in the description. Let's see. Okay, so it seems like these are clips from a larger video that talks about, it's like a conspiracy iceberg video.
People's Republic of Korea represents an ideal society, contrary to widespread negative portrayals. Proponents of this view point to North Korea's self-sufficiency ideology, Juche, as evidence of a society free from external pressures and exploitation. Supporters argue that the absence of capitalist consumerism in North Korea leads to reduced social inequality and stress typically associated with competitive market economies. Advocates highlight North Korea's preservation of cultural traditions and heritage, unaffected by globalization, as a positive aspect of their society. Some proponents cite North Korea's strict law enforcement and reported low crime rates as indicators of a stable and orderly society. Believers in this theory often mention North Korea's free education and healthcare systems as examples of an egalitarian approach to citizen welfare. Supporters sometimes point to North Korea's technological advancements, particularly in nuclear and space programs, as signs of progress despite international isolation. North Korean ghost boats refers to the phenomenon of unmanned vessels, often in poor condition, washing up on Japanese shores, sometimes containing human remains. These boats
Okay, so it just goes, on to there to different conspiracy theories about North Korea that are different, like ghost boats, nuclear stuff. So we won't get, and basically they just repeated everything in that article. So, but anyway, let's see. I have, okay, so this is just a really annoying video. We're probably not going to watch very much of it, but it is it's had like 6 views and it's a channel that has 16 subscribers. So, yeah.
What's up, sexy people of YouTube? Welcome back.
Good morning, Snapchat.
Good morning, Snapchat.
It is 3:04 p.m. Let's get.
Yeah. Oh shoot! I almost forgot my helmet. Obama almost got me.
We're gonna make moves, make money, get bitches.
We're not getting the gist. Anyways, welcome back, Chad. Welcome back to another episode of Conspiracy Night.
It is my first conspiracy, and I am hyped. Bill Clinton has nothing on me.
Except tapes. anyways. Today's episode is North Korea the real utopia?
I think so. Honestly, I think they are the good guys all along, and the Western world is the evil ones.
Yeah, we've been living in a lie, guys. Obama's been keeping this from us. The Clintons, the minions have been keeping this from us.
Trump's been keeping it from us. Even Joe Biden keep it from us.
Even your neighbor has been keeping this from you.
Even George Washington, he knew about Korea, but he just didn't tell us. He knew the potential that the world had in the 1700s.
They just want to keep the good resources for themselves. We have this theory, and basically everything is just backwards, okay? They just use X-ray alien technology to make us see a poor and sad North Korea, when in reality, we're just living in the lie. We're living in the Matrix over here.
Yes. So it all began around the 1950s during the Korean War. Mm-hmm. Russia had its influence on the North Korea, while the Western world had a democratic influence on South Korea. But North Korea was tired of everyone's BS. They were tired of the lies. They were tired of the elite winning everything. So they decided, bam, we're going to be shut off from you guys. We are done with your BS.
Yeah, they built the wall before Trump even got the idea.
Mm-hmm. In fact, they probably inspired Trump with the wall.
Probably, yeah, because remember, these guys are...
Okay, so I think you guys get the gist. The West is bad. The West is lying about North Korea. Okay, so one more before we get into the some other just more interesting stuff. This one's not very long either.
What if North Korea is not this like desolate dystopian place where everybody's being like totalitarianism to the core? What if North Korea is hiding a secret utopia where the elite live in luxury, fueled by trillions and untapped resources. And that's what some people tend to believe. I don't know if I agree with them, but that is what some people believe, is that what if North Korea was really this huge propaganda campaign by the West? And what if really what's happening there is actually Utopia, where Kim Jong-un actually doesn't defecate, where they have far advanced technology than us, where they have unlimited resources, none of them really have to work in this communist, socialist, totalitarian regime, and everybody's happy about it? What if all the defectors there? It's hard to say this seriously, but like, think about it. Let's okay, let me put on my serious hat here. Here's the argument that can be made around this. All right. There's actually a legitimate argument to be made that North Korea has an unbelievable amount of resources. North Korea is believed to be sitting on untapped natural resources, potentially worth trillions of dollars, including vast resources of rare earth materials, including coal, gold, and many other minerals. These resources could theoretically provide the economic foundation for a prosperous society, particularly if the government has been discreetly exploiting these assets. Now, there's supporting evidence surrounding this, which is the fact that North Korea is estimated to be one of the largest reserves of rare earth elements in the world, which are critical for modern technology, from smartphones to military equipment. Reports suggest that these resources could be worth $6 to $10 trillion. Given North Korea's isolation and the secrecy surrounding its economic activities, it's plausible that the regime has been strategically using these resources to maintain a hidden wealth base, fueling a more prosperous society than outsiders are aware of. Right? Like, what if North Korea is just like the real life Wakanda, where everybody thinks it's like this third world country, and it's actually this utopia with flying cars and unlimited resources, and people are all super happy, and they have, you know, all of these things that we don't know about, all this technology, all of these minerals, all these resources, all of this advanced modern societies. Like, what if Wakanda is real and it's actually North Korea? That's the question I'm posing to you. Now, another side of this is that there's actually legitimate evidence that shows that North Korea is known for its extensive network of underground facilities, like huge, massive underground military cities, not just military bunkers, but cities designed to protect and sustain its elite. The underground cities might be equipped with advanced technology, luxurious living conditions, but like nobody knows this, right? You go to North Korea, like you're getting a tour guide who's going to walk you through these like fake cities. Have you ever seen those videos? Like nobody knows what's going on there legitimately. The only thing that we know is the propaganda that's being propagated by Kim Jong-un, which looks more satirical than anything at all that you've ever seen. Like any video that is of Kim Jong-un, it looks like a comedy, like a legitimate comedy. So like what's actually going on there? Is it really just this like comical, satirical country where this totalitarian, brutal regime of, or is it like, or are they hiding something? Like, I think both of those are just as plausible as each other. It says there's multiple reports and defector testimonies that describe vast underground networks in North Korea, initially built for military purposes. Satellite imagery has also revealed suspicious land formations and construction activities that hint at larger underground facilities. Now, if you recall, I've done a deep dive into the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases that are under the United States of America, like huge, unbelievably huge, vast, like cities, infrastructures, military bases underground that nobody, unless you're in there and have the secret security clearances, know about. And we found out about them because there was Strava data. Strava is like or was it like MyFitness, like the Whoop app, whatever that is, the MyFitnessPal type of thing that you put on your hand. Why can't I think of it? I think it was Strava. Strava data got leaked, and it's this running technology where runners put this like on their shoes or it's on your phone app, and it tracks where you run. And the data got leaked from Strava. And when it got leaked, they saw these, there was like hundreds of people running this track in the middle of nowhere. And I think it was like Antarctica or something. And what they found was it was a deep underground military base where these military members were tracking their runs in the deep underground military base. So like these things exist. The data's been leaked. The U.S. has these. They're huge. Like
Wait, how? Okay, I know I've heard about this before, but I don't think that's what it was. Like, first of all, like, how would you, if it was in Antarctica, I'm pretty sure just there are actually runners that go there every year to like run. It's like a huge thing. So, like, how on earth would you, that just did not, none of that sounded right. That could be just there, that could be just runners like in Antarctica running. How does that lead to huge cities underground in Antarctica? I don't know. That just didn't seem well thought out.
massive cities under the ground. So who's to say that North Korea doesn't have that too? I mean, there's a lot of evidence to suggest the same. Right, designed, and so it talks about the land formations and construction activities that hint at large underground military bases. Secrecy and controlled information. The extreme secrecy and control over information in North Korea allow the regime to maintain a dual reality. While the global community sees a nation plagued by poverty and repression, there could be a totally different reality that's going on there. North Korea's tight control over media and information, both domestically and internationally, is well documented. The regime's ability to obscure much of its military and economic activities from even the most advanced civilization or intelligence services suggests that it could be just concealing aspects of its social infrastructure. This is supported by the fact that there is very little known about the true extent of North Korea's internal developments, and the country's isolation means that much of what is known comes from the controlled sources, either being the news, the defectors, right, which could very easily be people who are paid actors, just like we've had, crisis actors here in the U.S. And then it goes on to talk about how there's plenty of selective Western propaganda. So proponents argue that Western media, and this is all like a pro article designed to at least give some evidence of this. So it's like just being transparent with you. This is not like some legitimate government resource or some scientific article, but it is giving legitimate points about this. So, but it is in support of this idea of the North Korea utopia. But it says, by depicting the country as a failed state, Western powers can justify sanctions, military posturing, and political pressure. This narrative could be deliberately exaggerated or even fabricated, masking the true nature of North Korean society. And then it also talks about how there is inconsistent defector testimony. So while many defectors report dire conditions in North Korea, there have been cases where their testimonies have been questioned or even debunked. Some defectors have returned to North Korea, which proponents argue wouldn't happen if the country was as terrible as depicted, right? Why would you go back there if and there's some horrible videos, and I'm not meaning to having this conversation to downplay those defectors' testimonies, because there was the woman that was on Joe Rogan. She goes on and talks about some horrific things that are going on there, and all these terrible famines that are happening. I'm not trying to delegitimize that, and but it's an interesting concept, right? When everything has been shown to be false and propaganda, you start to question some weird stuff, guys. This may be one of those cases, but I'm sure that my bullshit radar is pretty well up here. I'm not totally buying this theory, but it's a fun thought experiment that North Korea is Wakanda. That's all I'm saying. And that is a fair point, though. Why would a defector go back there, right? Unless their family's being threatened, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cult. They leave family behind. It's a psychological thing. North Korea was extremely traumatized by the war, and they were in a very traumatized state, and they were extremely propagandized on with the horrible spell of communism, and it's a Stalin-like state that was created. So.
That'd be a good reason. This suggests that life in North Korea might be more nuanced, with certain segments of the population living in better conditions than the Western media portrays. Yeah.
Well, I do think that life is more nuanced. I do think that there probably are people that live better than some of the other people there, of course. And I also think that when we think of other countries, especially these really weird ones like North Korea or ones we deem as enemies, we often look at it in a certain light that may not be necessarily exactly true, down to an individual level. And and family level and stuff, and how people are getting by in, because the human spirit, you know, can like live through atrocities, right? It can continue on. And so there probably are, you know, times of happiness and moments of, you know, happy family memories and things like that with these people, but they are living under like basically a nationwide cult mentality, you know. So, what does the evidence actually show? Historian Andrei Lenkov, who lived and studied in Pyongyang in the 1980s, wrote one of the best books on this, The Real North Korea: Life and Politics in the Failed Stalinist Utopia. North Korea was deliberately built as an extreme Stalinist state after 1945. Kim Il sung created a command society with tighter control than even Stalin's USSR in some ways. Almost total elimination of private economic activity, pervasive surveillance and loyalty classification, a personality cult that treated the Kim family as near divine. Early decades saw some industrialization and social gains, but the rigid system proved unsustainable. When Soviet aid collapsed in the early 1990s, the country suffered one of the worst famines in modern history, the arduous march with hundreds of thousands dead. The regime survived by allowing limited black market activity while tightening political control and pursuing nuclear weapons. Lankov describes it as a failed utopian experiment that adapted just enough to stay in power, not because it secretly thrived. Thousands of defector testimonies, smuggled videos, and independent reporting paint a consistent picture of repression, hardship, and elite privilege, the opposite of any utopia. Theories like this flourish because North Korea is one of the most information-starved places on Earth. When verifiable facts are scarce, people will fill the void with creative explanations that resolve cognitive dissonance. The utopian version offers hope. Maybe the underdog is actually secretly winning. The underdog version is brilliant storytelling that explains the visible dysfunction. Similar patterns appear with other closed or heavily controlled societies: isolation, propaganda, and online amplification. Fertile ground for conspiracy thinking. It's human nature to question official narratives, but extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. Now, I have a couple of videos that are interesting. Okay, so this video is interesting because it highlights certain things about North Korea that are being spread out around online, because there are some weird stuff that you'll see. And they try to explain it, and they're not pro North Korea. But I found this video pretty interesting, and then it also helps you kind of see why people would start to think some of these things.
In one of my previous videos, I talked about North Korea's new 5-star beach resort. It officially opened last summer. It has a luxury 5-star hotel, modern water attractions, and the full resort facilities. On opening day, Kim Jong-un got splashed with water. At that moment, everyone thought the guy who did it was screwed. But Kim just kept smiling. He looked genuinely happy and proud. You see this 5-star resort, and you can't help wondering, has North Korea really modernized this much? But when I dug deeper, I found something surprising. This resort is actually nothing special, at least not in today's North Korea. Today's Pyongyang looks very different from what we imagine. There are modern shopping districts, high-end marketplaces, bars, Korean barbecue restaurants. There's even a car dealership. Recently, many videos from inside North Korea have appeared online. And look at the streets of Pyongyang. They look clean and modern, just like any major city. Look at the restaurants and look at the food. They have drinks imported from Japan and China. They even have pizzas and chicken wings, the most American foods you can imagine. One Chinese influencer found something totally unexpected. He looked at his North Korean tour guide's phone. The guide was playing Clash of Clans. But that is not the most surprising part. The most surprising part is the leaked footage where people in North Korea using WhatsApp. This is not North Korea we thought we knew. This is not a place where people starve to death. Instead, it looks like a place where people thrive in a modern society. So are these videos real? And if they are real, what do they really mean? Hi everybody, I'm Tony. Today, we're going to talk about whether North Korea has really become a modern socialist paradise. In June 2025, a video appeared on TikTok. It claimed that Pyongyang had opened an IKEA store. From the interior design to the product displays, it looked exactly like IKEA. And the store was not just selling furniture. They were selling Starbucks coffee, Haagen-Dazs ice cream, Pop Mart figures, and even Dyson products. So did IKEA really enter North Korea market? But then the video showed more. It turned out this was part of a shopping center. And the mall looks pretty awesome to me. The interior looked modern, and the product looked completely global. Now you might say this cannot be North Korea. Someone must filmed it in China or South Korea and claimed it was Pyongyang. Fine, let's take a closer look. In another video, you can see an information kiosk. The browser is Google Chrome, but you cannot open Google on it. And look at the Starbucks logo. The mermaid's face is completely covered up. In the final scene of the video, you can clearly see the North Korean flag on top of the building. You might say Google does not work in China either. So here's a stronger proof. I found another video under the uploads profile. The video was a vlog touring a mall. And this time there was a clear close-up of the IKEA store. And you can see on one of the walls there was a poster. A child was holding a North Korean flag. And then things got even crazier. Adidas, Chanel, Dior, SK-II, all kinds of global brands are available in this shopping center. So what happened to all those sanctions? How did these products enter North Korea? And how can they be sold openly in Pyongyang? This time, the internet exploded. Even the Sun quickly picked up the story. The Sun took a clear position. They said North Korea was copying these brands, and not even trying to hide it. IKEA responded in the report. They said they have never opened a store in North Korea, and they have never given any authorization either. A Swedish scholar offered another explanation. He said the mall vlog was clearly propaganda. Nothing in North Korea happens without the state. He also argued that if the video could be posted on TikTok, then it must have been approved by the government, because ordinary North Koreans do not have access to the internet. And the uploader's account was called the DPRK Times, and the account posted many similar videos. In one video, North Korean students spoke fluent English. In another video, North Korean women use smartphones. So what is this really? North Korean propaganda or real life inside North Korea? Before we answer that, let's look at something else, something even more interesting. An article published by North Korean media back in April 2025. The article says the general visited a newly built internet cafe with his...
Now, I don't know about how it is in North Korea, but I know for a fact, like places like, sometimes people will say there's no internet in a place, but there is. It's just internet in the country, right? So they have firewalls on all the, internet outside of the country. But sometimes people can, with VPN platforms and stuff like that, and just, ways of doing things, get around that firewall. So a lot of times when people say, oh, there's no internet somewhere, it's actually not true. Like oftentimes these countries that are sanctioned out of the West, out of the payment processors, out of the global market, they come up with all their own stuff. So they'll have their own apps inside their store, their own shopping, or inside their country, their own shopping apps, their own internet, their own brands, their own everything. Because they have to, life goes on, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, the West sanctioned me, so I guess we'll all just, squalor and live in dust. That's what I mean. The human spirit goes on. They find ways, they do stuff. The government finds ways to get around these things. So now I don't know if that's the case here. There are places where, they don't actually have any internet. So that could very well be the case here, or they could have some kind of state access that at least some people would have access to.
Daughter. The cafe is in Pyongyang. It is described as North Korea's first internet cafe, but officially it is called a computer entertainment center, and it is classified as a public internet facility. My Western viewers may not know what an internet cafe really is. So an internet cafe is very common in Asian countries. It is a place where people pay by the hour. They use high-end computers to go online and play games. Usually friends go together to surf the internet and play game together. This entertainment center has 300 seats. The lighting is blue and white. Sharp lines, very futuristic. But there is one thing I want to ask the general. Where are the computers? Why are there no computers in this internet cafe? Do you only provide gaming chairs and desks, and the people need to bring their own computers? If that's the case, this place feels like a buffet where you have to bring your own food. According to this article, the general seems very pleased after he was told that the cafe would become very popular among young people. But look carefully. There are no computers, but every row of tables has exactly 5 gaming chairs. That is a standard esports formation. So clearly, the general understands esports very well. Why does he know so much about esports? Because he plays himself. A few years ago, people discovered a Steam IP address coming from Pyongyang. That IP probably belonged to either Kim Jong-un or his brother Kim Jong-chul. Kim Jong-il's personal chef Kenji Fujimoto also wrote in his memoir that Kim Jong-un loved video games since childhood. He used to play the Nintendo Entertainment System a lot. And yes, he's probably a very experienced gamer. And according to some younger defectors, video games in North Korea are actually quite common in these days. They can play games like FIFA FC, some even play the GTA 5. If we look at mobile games, we can even see Clash of Clans as I mentioned at the beginning. But when I studied that video closely, I noticed something strange. This version of Clash of Clans does not look very official. It looks more like a North Korean knockoff version. The archers became North Korean-style female soldiers. The Western fantasy elements are gone. No undead kings, no magic kingdoms. Everything looks like ancient Korea instead. For mobile games, changing the graphics is not that hard. But the real question is this. Where did the source code coming from? Did the North Korean hackers get their hands on it? Besides stealing Bitcoins and reporting my channel, are they also stealing the source code of popular games? Actually, my channel has been getting very low views lately. I sometimes wonder if it has anything to do with North Korean cyber teams. So please, like and subscribe. Your likes and comments are the best weapon against North Korean cyber army, and I really appreciate it. But here's another question. Are these apps downloaded from the App Store? Can North Koreans even access our App Store? Well, the answer is no, they cannot. But North Korea has its own App Store, and it is very North Korean. Why? Because their App Store is literally a store. If you want a new app, you have to go there in person. You walk in and look at the wall covered with app posters. You pick the app that you want to download. And finally, a staff member installs the apps onto your phone. So you might ask, after all this talk about app stores and mobile games, do North Koreans even have smartphones? They're supposed to be poor. How can they afford mobile phones? On June 18, 2025, North Korean State TV introduced a new phone. The brand was called Matesan. And this was not an ordinary phone. It was a foldable phone. Kim Jong-un himself seems to love foldable phones. During a missile launch inspection, he was once photographed with Huawei foldable phones on his desk. And in this report, state media said mobile phones are essential devices in modern communication and an indispensable part of everyday life. North Korea's official carrier Korealink was founded in 2008. According to North Korea, within just a few years, the company already had over 2.5 million users. Today, that number has roughly tripled. According to defector Cho Woo-sung, he said mobile phones became widespread after 2009. At that time, he was studying electrical engineering at a North Korean university. He said the government issued the phone was called the Arirun. To own an Arirun phone and the phone number cost about $2,000. And the usage was limited. Each month, you could only talk for 200 minutes and send 50 text messages. If you used them up, you had to pay another $8.4 for 200 more minutes. Many students could not even afford the monthly plan, but they still spent a huge amount of money to buy a phone. Not for practical reasons, because only a phone was a status symbol. Normal phone numbers started with 191 or 193, but special numbers started with 195. And those numbers came with 100 extra minutes. So students with 195 numbers often agreed to lend their phones to others. Because a special number meant connections. Connection to the government, to the military, or to the party. When people saw a 195 number, they treated you with more respect. And this is what Cho Woo-sung told us about mobile phones in North Korea 10 years ago. Today, we don't know exactly how much has changed, but one thing is certain. North Korean phones still use the domestic network called Kwanmyeong. And on their domestic network, there seems to be more surprises. Beside Clash of Clans, another image has surfaced on the internet. It looks like a chat record from Line. And you have to know, Line is a messaging app from South Korea. And the Line advertisement can even be seen openly displayed in North Korean malls. So is this the real Line or a North Korean copy? If it is a copy, I have to say it is done very faithfully. Even the Line rabbit is copied exactly. They didn't even change the mascot. At least change a little bit, right? Like a Line uses rabbit, you could use a squirrel or maybe a bear. But no, these North Korean guys are only hardworking when it comes to reporting my channel. For everything else, they seem pretty lazy. Along with that post, more image surfaced. Luxury cars with North Korean plates, coffee shops, bars, barbecue restaurant, and even a ride-sharing app. Basically a North Korean version of Uber. And then at the end, there was this photo. It looks like a library or maybe a school. A teenager playing Elden Ring on a Chinese laptop. You think I'm done talking about the good life in North Korea? Not even close. You probably know Ri Chong-hee. She is North Korea's most famous TV announcer, a national treasure and the Kim family's trusted voice. She has worked as TV announcer since 1971, that is more than 50 years. Whenever she appeared on television, people in North Korea know something big has happened. In 1994, when Kim Il-sung died, she delivered the news. In 2011, when Kim Jong-il died, she delivered the news again. In 2016, when North Korea successfully tested a nuclear weapon, she was still the one making the announcement. Then in 2022, when Future Scientist Street was completed, she appeared again. But this time, she wasn't announcing the news. She stood beside Kim Jong-un at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. During the ceremony, she was moved to tears several times. And afterward, Kim Jong-un took her to the residential area. They entered one of the apartments. At the time, the 79-year-old Ri Chong-hee held Kim Jong-un's arm. Her eyes were full of admiration. It turned out the apartment was a gift for her. Her whole family stayed awake all night because they were deeply moved.
Okay, so this woman worked for over 50 years for them, and she's just now getting an apartment for her family at 79. So, I mean, just have to think about things a little bit here, okay?
The apartment is nearly 200 square meters, a true luxury home. And this is exactly the kind of reward the general gives to national talents like her. Future Scientist Street is said to be home to top experts from many fields. Applied chemistry, nuclear physics, computer science, biotechnology, even hackers, spies, and the intelligence officers. They are the people helping Kim Jong-un transform North Korea. But honestly, transform is an understatement. These are the people who help Kim stay in power. The name Future Scientist Street sounds futuristic, and according to reports, Kim Jong-un himself chose the name. And the architecture of those buildings looks even more futuristic. The blue and white tower is called a Galaxy Tower. It is 53 stories tall, about 150 meters high. It is the main building on the street. You can also see atomic sculptures in many places. They symbolize North Korea's nuclear achievements. Future Scientist Street sits along the Taedong River in central Pyongyang. There are more than 500 apartments. Each one is fully furnished. From kindergarten to university, the area has a full education system. Ri Chong-hee earned her apartment through decades of loyalty to the Kim family. And about 10 years ago, a story leaked out about this neighborhood. And it was deeply embarrassing for the regime. In 2015, when about 500 families moved in, they faced serious problems. Many apartments were unfinished. There was no water, no electricity, heating was very weak. Without electricity, elevators did not work. Residents on higher floors suffered through daily involuntary cardio exercises. But recent footage from Future Scientist Street shows something completely different. The streets are full of private cars. When I saw those private cars, I was wondering if the North Korean government giving out cars along with apartments now. And there are also nighttime videos. Bright lights everywhere. Does that mean power shortage are no longer a thing? And then there is another video from January this year. It claims these homes are part of 50,000 free apartments built in the past 5 years. At this point, I'm honestly confused, especially when I saw this giant LED screen. In my memory, North Korea's display were made out of people, but now they have real LED billboards. This is a K-pop group performing a dance routine. But then the camera turns, and you see something surprising. They are performing for a North Korean audience. That's right, this is not Seoul, this is Pyongyang. I don't know if you find this shocking, but for North Korean audiences, this must have been incredible. Look at them, vacant expression, mechanical applause. You can almost sense the shockwaves running through their heads. This is actually a South Korean concert personally approved by Kim Jong-un. It took place at the Pyongyang Grand Theater. After the performance, Kim Jong-un shook hands with every member of the group. He told them, "I was deeply moved by your songs." And in the end, he even took photos with all South Korean artists. I know it feels surreal, doesn't it? This is not the North and South relationship we usually imagine. But this footage is already 8 years old. Back in 2018, relations between North and South Korea suddenly warmed. In 2017, South Korean President Moon Jae-in said he was willing to meet Kim Jong-un at any time. And soon after, Kim Jong-un agreed to improve relations. North Korea sent a delegation to the Pyeongchang Olympics. During the opening ceremony, the two Koreas marched together under one flag. That flag showed the entire Korean peninsula. During the games, the two countries even formed a joint women's hockey team. Out of 35 players, 23 were from the South and 12 were from the North. Head coach Murray took a farewell photo with the North Korean coach. She later said the locker room felt awkward at first, but after a birthday party, the players slowly became friends. South Korean players taught K-pop dances, and the North Korean players already knew the songs by heart. But just when things seemed to be improving, something strange happened. In June 2020, during the global pandemic, North Korea blew up a building. The building was the Inter-Korean Liaison Office, and the building had only completed only 2 years earlier. South Korea has funded the project, about 17 billion won. North Korea said the demolition was because South Korea
Okay, so that's such a bizarre thing to do. Like, you spend all this money on a building, right? And then it's only 2 years old, and then you just blow it up because you get upset. You know what I mean? Like, that's very extreme to do something like that.
had betrayed them again. The building had shared facilities, an information center, meeting rooms, and separate offices for both sides. It opened in September 2018. Both sides worked there together without any issues. Until late January 2020, when the pandemic began, both sides withdrew. They agreed to return later, but suddenly North Korea blew up the building. The real reason is still unclear, but some people believe it was caused by balloon campaigns run by North Korean defectors. The balloons carried 500,000 leaflets, 50 booklets, and $2,001 bills. Balloon launches had happened before, but this time, the content went a little too far. It directly targeted Kim Jong-un and his wife. Kim was furious, and the building was then destroyed. By the way, I just covered those contents in my last video, and it was very spicy. So if you're interested, please go check it out after watching this one. So everything we just saw, the modern internet cafe, the luxury shopping malls, all of it is most likely North Korean propaganda. In simple terms, North Korea wants the outside world to believe that life in North Korea is pretty good. And even if those things are real, they are only available to a very small privileged class. But since Kim Jong-un came to power, he has introduced some reforms. And those reforms were part of an effort to modernize North Korea. Back when Kim Jong-il was alive, North Koreans often seemed very rigid. One major reason was clothing. Fashion choices were extremely regulated. Kim Jong-il regulated not only clothing, but even hairstyles. For example, men and women.
Okay, so this is something that cults will often do. They will tell you what you can wear. And especially women normally, but also with men, we have the Mormon cult where they have to wear the clothing underneath, and the Brigham Young, the really extreme ones that were around, he had this elaborate, very weird, like the whole thing is weird, how he wanted the women to do their hair, and it was a lot of work with all these weird braids and like done in this like particular way. So they all had to wear that stuff and specific clothes and things like that. So whenever you see clothing and hairstyles controlled, that's very cult-like behavior.
Could only choose from very few approved styles. But the strangest rule was this. Women were only allowed to wear skirts, but not pants. So where did that rule come from? Apparently Kim Jong-il once said, pants are for men, skirts are for women. And I have no idea how he came up with that logic. But because of that, North Korean women could not wear pants. And today, Kim Jong-un mostly looks the other way when it comes down to clothing. So how far does that go? Around 2013, North Korea allowed the clothing black market in Chongjin to operate more openly. Every day, large quantities of Japanese fashion flowed in. There's even footage from a 2023 women's fashion show. According to reports, the clothes, the shoes, and the bags were all made inside North Korea. But then comes the real question. How are those goods actually traded? In 2013, Kim Jong-un introduced a policy. He allowed people to run their own businesses. But what does that mean? Doesn't the state assign all jobs in North Korea? So in reality, North Korea's economy collapsed after the famine years. By the time Kim Jong-un came to power, the system had already been broken for more than a decade. Here's the map provided by researchers. It shows the distribution of black markets across North Korea. Especially in Pyongyang, black markets are everywhere.
Okay, so this is one of the things I was talking about when I mentioned that, oh, they don't have to live under, the oppressive capitalist state or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, they're only surviving and not starving to death because they have these black markets and get a lot of it from China that they border or whatever. And so, yeah, like that's how they're somewhat like being able to survive, at least, the majority of the people there.
Without exaggeration, North Korea's economy has been stagnant for 30 years. But those black markets are the real economic lifeline of the country. One researcher who studied this closely is Daniel Tudor. He graduated from Oxford. He's a writer, a journalist, and a businessman. In 2015, through his business, he met many North Korean traders. He later published a book called North Korean Confidential. The book explains in details how ordinary people in North Korea survived through black markets. After the famine, North Korean won collapsed in value. State salaries could no longer support a family. The official exchange rate was about 96 won to $1. Factory workers earned between 1,000 and 6,000 won per month. But the real exchange rate was closer to 8,000 won per dollar. That means a factory worker could work for an entire month and still earn less than $1. So people had to find other ways to survive. Home workshops worked non-stop. New goods kept appearing in the black market across the country. Meanwhile, state factories were barely operating. I mean, who would work a full month for less than $1, right? So what can you buy on the black market? So there's a saying in North Korea. Everything except cat horns can be bought. If something exists, it can be found on the black market. The markets remained unofficial through the years, but in reality, they became the mainstream economy. When Kim Jong-un came to power, he realized leaving the black markets behind was impossible. So he took another approach. He didn't shut down the black markets. He chose to regulate them. Markets were organized, locations were planned, rent was collected. And the state still made money while people fed themselves. But this period of openness didn't last long. By 2014, Kim Jong-un realized many people had become self-sufficient through the markets, and they no longer depended on the government. And that made him very nervous. So he decided to tighten control. But he also knew that if the economy relied only on inefficient state factories, people's life would fall back to the famine years. So he tried another policy. Many state factories were contracted out to individuals, something like a fixed payment deal. You pay the state a fixed amount. Anything extra, yours to keep. After this policy, a new business class emerged in Pyongyang. And those are the people who own the luxury cars we saw at the beginning. So yes, Kim Jong-un did introduce some reforms, but under international sanctions and isolations, these policies could only do so much. They kept the economy from collapsing.
So you see that often in these societies. It happened in China too. Like they were so, oppressive, and people were starving, and people can only starve for so long before they're like, we're going to like freak out, you know what I mean? And so then that's when they started allowing people to like have some legitimate business between each other and things like that. And then it just kind of like, slowly got a little less oppressive, because China today is a lot different than it was, during the height of Mao and all that was going on. Maybe things will get better for people in Korea over time. I mean, it'll never be, wonderful, the way that we see it. But, if things lighten up in some areas, but then of course, if this one dictator dies and another one comes in that's more aggressive, it's like you never really know. But they're still extremely like they have caste systems there. So anybody who was against the communist takeover back in the day, those families are still forever labeled badly, and some of them have to live in labor camps, like the entire family. So if they have children in them, they're born into them, they have to live in them forever, so it's pretty wild, like it's not good.
They kept the people from starving to death, but that is all. As for the modern socialist paradise we saw at the beginning, you should think of it as the show directed by Kim Jong-un, a real-life version of The Truman Show. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, hype, and subscribe. With that,
okay, so I watched Korean TV for 24 hours and it was hell. So let's kind of see because it is really weird, right? Like there's a lot of just weird stuff you see. So I thought we could explore that a little bit.
Turn on the TV in Pyongyang and you find yourself in a parallel reality.
We will not abandon our nuclear program as long as the United States continues to show aggression.
The anchor smiles, children clap, and the country prepares for yet another defense of peace. On other channels, it's business as usual. A tractor driver catches an American spy. 6-year-old girls sing "Thank You Party" for the sun, and the hero of a TV drama saves a rice field from traitors who dared to listen to foreign radio. This video is about what the world looks like when the TV becomes the brain of the country, and why what seemed absurd turned out to be terrifyingly effective. There are 4 television channels in North Korea. All of them are state-owned. The main one is KCTV, Korean Central Television. It broadcasts daily from Pyongyang and covers state news, official ceremonies, military parades, cultural events, and propaganda films. The channel was launched in 1963 and today remains the primary platform for evening news, usually at 8 p.m., where reports on Kim Jong-un's activities are the central focus. KCTV also transmits documentaries about the ruling family, concerts, and educational programs. Its signal is distributed nationwide and also uplinked to satellites, which is why KCTV's broadcasts can be received outside North Korea and are frequently mirrored on international platforms. Ryong Namsen is officially an educational channel for students. But don't expect to find any TED Talks there. Instead, it broadcasts scientific documentaries, often set to the background of marching music. There are also language lessons, including English, Chinese, and Russian. Chaeyoke TV is a dedicated sports channel in North Korea. Its programming includes football matches, gymnastics, martial arts, and documentaries about sport, framed as a form of national resistance. The focus is not only on athletic performance, but also on presenting it as a reflection of the leadership's guidance and the strength of the nation. Mansudae TV is formally presented as a channel aimed at international viewers. In reality, its role is limited to rebroadcasting domestic content, with some news segments occasionally provided in English. Ordinary North Koreans don't have access to the global internet. What exists instead is Kwangmyong, a closed internet with a few thousand state-approved sites, filtered news, a copycat Wikipedia, and basic educational resources. Only a small, trusted part of the population can even use it, mostly students and government workers. For the overwhelming majority, television remains the main channel of communication. Over 90% of households have a TV, however, all of them are locked. Channels, antennas, and external signals are blocked. The signal only comes from the state-owned broadcast tower. Even owning a satellite dish is illegal. There are no channel switches, because there is no need for them. You watch the same thing anyway, just with a different tone of voice. Interestingly, even the TVs themselves, mostly Chinese or South Korean, are simply reprogrammed. They come with a special chip that prevents you from changing the signal source. So even the technology that feels domestic is made at a foreign factory, just like the entire economy of North Korea. Turning on the television in North Korea is like stepping into a parallel reality and leaving your common sense behind for 12 hours, because the day of broadcast is a day of cult and repetition. 9 a.m., anthem, flag, mountain. The day begins with the national anthem. On the screen, Mount Paektu, the flag, and text in the style of, "The leader has gifted us another day." 9:15 a.m. Photos of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are shown. Poems, songs, a slideshow of mountains, flags, and marches. 10 a.m., marching music, footage of fields, children in uniform, and synchronized dancing. 12 p.m., educational program about greenhouses. 20 minutes on how to grow plants in northern climates. This is part of the regular schedule, even as food shortages remain a reality in the country. 1 p.m., patriotic film about Japanese spies, an old movie from the 80s. The heroes are workers and soldiers, love for the party, heroism in the factory. Well made. Kim Jong-il personally oversaw the film industry. 3 p.m., shots of swimming pools, hotels, and parks. Everything looks like it's from a 5-star resort catalog, but this is just the capital. Beyond it lies a completely different reality. 5:30 p.m., on the screen, a scanned copy of a newspaper. The anchor simply reads it aloud. 6 p.m., cartoon Boy General. Visually, not bad, but it is more like a patriotic lecture dressed up as a kids show. 7 p.m., main news. Kim visited the factory, Kim brought happiness, Kim created the future. The segment includes a bountiful harvest, loyalty to the state, and the West is collapsing. 8 p.m., international news, crisis in the US, hunger in Europe, shooting in South Korea, all designed to send a message: they've got it worse. 8:30 p.m., weather. The weather is the only segment that is actually true. 9 p.m., evening movie. Another old movie from the 80s, this time about love, but still, factory, party, flag, morality. 10 p.m., news, rerun, and farewell. The day ends the way it began. Anthem, mountain, Kim, good night. There are countries where propaganda flows from the news, and there are countries where it seeps into everything, even TV series and cartoons, because when Kim Jong-il was alive, he considered himself not only a leader, but also a director. Literally. He wrote a book titled On the Art of Cinema and personally oversaw film production. In 1978, North Korea kidnapped South Korean director Shin Sang-ok and his ex-wife, an actress. They were forced to produce propaganda films with revolutionary themes. The director escaped only after 8 years at a festival in Vienna. North Korean films follow a tightly controlled ideological template. Heroes are typically loyal workers or soldiers, while antagonists are often portrayed as traitors, influenced by foreign culture, sometimes marked by something as simple as a radio or Western-style haircut. At the end, the films often close with familiar images, an award, the sacred Mount Paektu, and stirring music. A love story? If there is one, it is for the motherland, at most a brief holding of hands. Eroticism? Forget it. Even kissing is not allowed. The longest TV series is Nation and Destiny. 62 episodes about political loyalty. The hero struggles with ideological challenges, wavering between the party and the party. There is no advertising in North Korea, but There is something like ideological marketing. They have videos that look like advertisements but promote an idea. Cleanliness is our weapon. Work like a revolutionary. Sweep the street as if the leader were behind you. In a normal world, cartoons are about friendship, wizards, and why you shouldn't swallow Lego. But in North Korea, even animation is a political statement. One of the most famous North Korean cartoons is Boy General. Each episode is like a patriotic lesson with animated cutscenes. It is interesting that visually the cartoons look good, anime style, clean visuals, but the content is like a mix of Disney and textbook of Marxism-Leninism. Even the cutest squirrel in the series says something like, "Let's kick the capitalist predators out of our forest." And you're like, wait, what? Is this really meant for kids? Yeah.
Okay, so that gives us an idea about what they're watching there. Now let's go to... Okay, so this video we're going to watch is long and it's pretty fascinating. I don't know if you guys ever watched Johnny Harris, but I really like him. Produces very interesting things in an interesting way.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you point a camera at the Earth 600 kilometers above the surface, it's pretty mesmerizing. But point it at the Korean Peninsula and you'll see this. South Korea is ablaze, but North Korea is almost totally dark. You've got this little point here for Pyongyang, the capital, but it's mostly a void. The Black Void tells a story of how the 25 million people live in this secretive kingdom of North Korea. But as the sun rises, we get to fill in the details, we get to see more. We get to see cities designed to control. We get to see an unfathomable amount of military installations, many of them burrowed into mountains, where they protect nuclear weapons, where the over 1 million soldiers endlessly prepare for war.
There's over 10,000 manned military installations. So air defense, bases, naval sites, all that squeezed into Pennsylvania.
We see factories, lots of factories. We see these little islands of dense housing, which are the homes of the workers who are assigned here. We see barriers, lots of barriers. Barriers meant to keep people in. And not just on the borders with neighbors, but also within the country itself. Checkpoints and barriers between provinces. I've been looking at every inch of North Korea because I want to understand how it actually works. I want to understand how the all-powerful leaders have designed this place and why. And I've been stumbling upon stuff that I never thought I'd see in North Korea. Ski resorts, an international...
So, and like, the war traumatized these people, right? They destroyed Korea into like their buildings into dust almost, like North Korea. So that's what I mean. Like a lot of all this stuff and the way people act in other countries that we all think is so like absurd and crazy. Well, trauma does stuff to people. Okay. China lost 21 million, I believe it was, people in World War II alone, and Russia lost 27 million. So, those might be reversed, but those are huge numbers, okay? That's like every single family being touched. Like, it's much different than how we experience the wars, right? So, or the war. So, war on that scale, like, can traumatize civilizations and societies, right?
Children's camp, lots and lots of water slides, markets where people buy and sell things, schools and fields, fruit factories, coal shipments, limestone mines, burial grounds, prison camps in the cities and the mountains, lots of strange looking buildings, stadiums and tracks and sports fields, empty roads and empty squares, Christian churches, a turtle-shaped building, apartment blocks where rich people live. I mean, you stumble upon some pretty wild stuff when you just scour every inch of the satellite map. I've also been talking to experts who spend their time looking at the
map of North Korea, analyzing it day by day for decades. Their data has been really useful in all of this. And honestly, I'm starting to see North Korea in a totally different way. I think I've been exposed to a very specific version of this country. And that doesn't mean it's an inaccurate version, but it's just one version. Today I want to show you a deeper version. Now the map can't tell us everything, but I'm seeing how it can fill in the blanks in my knowledge of how this country actually works, broadening my perspective on this most secretive kingdom in our world. So buckle up and let's get ready to look at this map. I mean, this whole country is under one giant surveillance. I mean, first things first, North Korea is a beautiful country.
North Korea is usually viewed as, this hellscape of a place, but it's actually really beautiful. Lots of mountains and hills and rare animals and everything.
It's home to this huge mountain range. Among these rugged mountains, you've got this volcano, Mount Paektu. It's kind of a sacred spot for North Koreans. It's where their legends say their great leader Kim Jong-il was born. Incidentally, it's right on this border, actually. Half of Mount Paektu is on the Chinese side. China, North Korea. North Korea can get really cold and snowy. It's home to between 20 and 30 million people. It's about half as many as live in South Korea. And it was the war in the 1950s that created these two Koreas, and in the process turned what is now North Korea into dust. Today, North Korea is built around a few major cities. Here's the 10 most populous. Some have ports, some are up on the border with China, and then there's this river city of Pyongyang. This is the capital. A lot of this had to be redesigned from scratch because the country was destroyed in the Korean War. The country itself is designed in line with this North Korean communist ideology of a human body. The great leader is the brain, and then the members of his single-party government represents the nervous system that connects his will to the masses. The masses are the bones and the muscle, the ones who carry out the work of building this country. The country is supposed to act as one, serving the will of the brain, the great leader. And what I'm seeing is that this kind of body configuration allows them to do some pretty unique things. First and foremost, military. Most countries spend between 1% and 4% of their GDP on military. North Korea spends between 20 and 25% of their GDP on their military. And we've got the data on what that looks like. Whoa, okay, settle down, big boy. Oh God. Look at this. Oh my Lord, look at this. I don't think I've ever seen so many yellow push pins in my life. It kind of reminds me of that map of saunas in Finland. Places like a fortress. You can see that a lot of this is concentrated down here on their southern border. This is the DMZ. It's actually a 4-kilometer thick border. And technically within this 4 kilometers, there's supposed to be no military stuff. That is, if you don't count the thousands of landmines that are there left over from the Korean War and that North Korea continues to plant. But in terms of weapons, most of it is right here on the border of the DMZ, where North Korea has 900 artillery guns that are aimed right at Seoul, South Korea. In the event of a conflict, these guns could fire 10,000 rounds a minute at South Korea, which would make good on their promise to turn South Korea into a sea of fire, which they often make towards their southerly neighbor. Now, a reminder, it's not just North Korea. If we were mapping American or South Korean military assets, you'd see a lot.
Imagine living in South Korea and all that's facing you. That would be really unsettling, psychologically. It's just hard to imagine.
Of those two on the southern side, down here. But we are looking at North Korea right now. You got underground bunkers, missile launch sites, nuclear reactors, airstrips, naval bases. So you've got the thousands of landmines, and of course this little pavilion where soldiers from both sides stand meters apart. This is where the countries have their diplomatic talks. You've got 1,000 observation posts, 300 checkpoints and roadblocks, tons of military facilities that support the soldiers here. And then of course, tunnels. Man, you're gonna see a lot of underground stuff here. North Korea is covered with these things. And this is just the ones we know of. One explanation for these tunnels is that during the Korean War, this country was basically flattened. Almost every building was turned to dust by American bombs. So a huge part of the North Korean psyche is this paranoid fear of air power. They designed their defense strategy to be ready for if that ever happens again. They have a lot of these fortified bases and tunnels. Some of them are for weapons storage, and some of them are for invasion. Like down here on the DMZ, they secretly dug a bunch of tunnels that are kilometers long that go under the DMZ. This would allow them to move troops into South Korea very quickly. I actually went into one of these tunnels that had been discovered by South Korea. But these tunnels also have another purpose. And in fact, the military itself, a big portion of it, is dedicated to protecting one family. You'll see this in the Capitol. This is the barracks that houses some of the 100,000 bodyguards meant to protect the Kim family. This hill is like a giant bunker. It's home to a bunch of military installations, some of them deep underground, a lot of them connected through tunnels. And this is one of the many escape plans that the Kim family has in case of an attack. They can escape on an armored train or in one of the helicopters that is stored inside of this hill. There's rumors that there is another huge tunnel system on the northern border that would allow the Kims to sneak into China if they needed to.
Just the amount of effort put into the security of the Kims themselves versus, helping out your average person. I don't think people really realize the amount of security infrastructure that they have.
But it's not all underground. The country is littered with 1,500 guns and missiles that are meant for shooting down aircraft. A third of those, by the way, are concentrated around Pyongyang, the capital. Like, look at this one. Pretty funky looking from above. Here in the middle of this field, you've got the Air Force. The Air Force is one of their larger military branches. And then you've got their Navy, which has a bunch of submarines. A lot of them not totally operable, experts think. But in a recent video we made on submarines, we calculated at least 36 operable submarines hanging out in bases like this. Now look at their missile sites. Missiles, rockets, nuclear weapons are a big deal for this regime, and especially the most recent leader, who, as you can see from this graph, has really ramped up the testing of all of this. These missiles have all kinds of different ranges, but the longest ones can go 12,000 kilometers away. I mean, that puts a lot of the world in range, including the United States. Many of those are up here in these mountain bases where they store these missiles and where they can launch them. But lately, they've also been trying to send up non-weapons into space. This launch pad is where, over the last couple of years, they've tried to put satellites up into space.
So it's sort of bizarre to think about that, like the way we think about Korea, that then to also think that they're sending up rockets, doesn't that seem like cognitively strange to think about? It's sort of weird, you know what I mean? Just like the world is so strange. It's just strange to think about. It's like you wouldn't think, oh, when I think of North Korea, I don't think about them launching rockets, to space, or that they're putting it's just, you think of just desolation, right? Which, I mean, I'm not like, it obviously is, but I'm just saying, like, it's weird to think about, right? And that's what I mean, that everything isn't always just black and white. Obviously they have people who are working on rockets, so it's just sort of weird.
It's put a satellite in orbit. There's only about 11 or 12 countries around the world that have ever put a satellite in orbit.
The military is core to keeping the Kims in power, which is why they often show it off. I love this video from The Guardian. They know when one of these things is going to happen because there's like a replica of the Kim Il-sung Square, the big central square, where all of these soldiers get together and practice. And so whenever they see activity in that practice square, they know that they're getting ready for one of these. So the military is a very important part of keeping the Kims in power. It's used as propaganda, it's used as actual defense, and it's often used to actually like build stuff. And you've got one of the largest militaries in the world, 1 million plus active duty. They're able to command that to do all sorts of projects, including construction projects, which we're gonna look at. One thing you'll see a lot of in North Korea is fences, and not to necessarily keep people from coming in, but more so to keep people from going out. They've spent years building a fence around the entire perimeter of the country, at least 1,400 kilometers, bordering China alone. Here's all the security outposts. I mean, this fencing goes through all kinds of terrain, including dug into the beach. And a lot of this was built recently, as more and more people have been trying to escape. And then within the country itself, there are barriers that control people's movement. The country has checkpoints at the province borders to make sure people aren't moving around without permission. So yeah, a lot of people can't get out of North Korea, but some can. In fact, there's a whole network of IT professionals, North Korean like engineers, who interview for Western tech jobs, get hired, and then pass money and information back to the North Korean regime, all without their employer knowing it.
Okay, I'm about to try to conduct a job interview for the first time in my life. I reached out to David Wensky, a senior software engineer, and he responded to me 3 hours after I reached out, but I'm not actually hiring anybody. And I don't think David Wensky is actually who he says he is.
This is a big rabbit hole that is very juicy, and my colleague Christoph went down that rabbit hole in a new video that's live right now over on his channel. His show is called Tunnel Vision. It is very good, and this story about IT espionage and money funneling back to North Korea is incredibly wild, how deep Christoph was able to get. So you should go check that out. The link is in the description. Okay, so a lot of this stuff probably isn't that surprising to you. This is the kind of stuff we see on the news, the stuff that gets covered a lot, the military, the missiles, the control. But now I want to get to the part of this country that really led me to this video in the first place, which is the stuff that we don't see very often, to try to expand my understanding of what it is like to live in North Korea. What is life like in these cities, out here in the rural areas? How do they make stuff? Where do they get their food? Entertainment, community. Turns out that between defector testimony, state news, and the satellite map, you can actually learn a lot about this stuff. A lot of North Korea's cities were designed from scratch after the city was turned into rubble because of the Korean War. And because of that, they have very unique design that is meant to fulfill a certain objective that is in line with North Korean ideals of controlling people, unifying people, and continuously celebrating their leaders and the struggle of their continuous revolution. So, many of us have seen the capital, we'll get to that, but I want to look at these other cities. A lot of North Korean cities are built around a big central square, like this. A lot of them have these circles that look like they're hand-drawn. The square is kind of the middle of the city, and then you have these massive boulevards that kind of frame out the city. Now you'll quickly notice in a lot of these cities that these boulevards are pretty empty. You see a lot more buses than you see private cars. Oh, and you see a mosque every once in a while. I've tried to...
So it's a little bizarre that they have these giant roads, these huge wide roads, but they have no cars. Like, people aren't driving cars. So it's just... You know, it's just weird. It's like uncanny valley or whatever that's called. Like, everything about North Korea is just weird, which makes sense why there would be, you know, conspiracy around it not being what we think it is, because it is just weird. Like, this, all this is empty, you know?
Get to the bottom of what the deal is with these mosques. North Korea has a couple of these churches or mosques that are mostly there for optics, from what I can tell. More on that in a little bit. So yeah, you've got these empty boulevards, lots of empty squares that lead to these kind of grand spaces. Now, these spaces are often punctuated with some kind of monument. Here's one. Here we go, Central Square. I mean, we can go back in time too and sort of look at the historical imagery. Huge boulevards, often very empty. Oh, boom, look, someone's visiting. So when you see people, you often see them in huge groups like this. At least that's what I've noticed from above. When there's people, there's a lot of them and they're all very close. But oftentimes this stuff is empty. Oh, look, here's a bunch of people lined up in near perfect geometry on this square.
Like, isn't that weird and bizarre and creepy?
Every major city has a stadium. Now, some of these are in kind of bad shape, but some are really nice. Sports is a big deal in North Korea.
Some of the sports that are popular in North Korea, they do very well. So they're definitely, in some areas, sort of hitting above their weight, I think.
Though defectors do report that sometimes a stadium like this one in particular has been used for public executions or public shamings. A big part of the control regime in North Korea is to publicly punish to keep people in line. Okay, and then recently the government declared that every city needs to have one of these. Check this out. There are around 170 of these traffic parks, and these are new, but these are very important to North Korean cities. Remember all those empty streets? Like most people.
Okay, so this is like bizarre. So they have these traffic parks for kids, like little kids, to drive little tiny cars. And every city has to have one. Is that not bizarre and strange and weird? Like, I don't know. It's just so weird.
People don't own cars in North Korea. They go on buses. But recently that's kind of changing. There's even a car company that puts together like kit cars and sells them in North Korea. They're one of the few companies that actually advertise. And so because of that, there is more traffic in residential areas, which has led to more accidents for kids who are not used to dealing with cars. So this was an initiative to teach kids the rules of traffic to promote public safety for children. One thing that's going on. Okay, so those are some of the design patterns and kind of common ingredients in a North Korean city. But let me show you some specific cities, because as we do that, you start to see how this country works, how its economy works. Hamhung is one of their bigger cities. You've got your standard big, giant, empty squares with statues of the leaders. But this is actually a big economic hub for chemicals. Here's an area that some experts believe is a chemical facility where they actually store this stuff underground. Remember how they love to put everything underground to protect it? These little white dots sort of represent that there is something buried there, and potentially chemical weapons or other sensitive chemicals that they don't want the world to know about. See these big industrial facilities. They make a lot of chemicals like fertilizer, pesticides. It's home to this pretty wild looking amusement park. I don't know what is going on with these slides. Now, I've never seen it full of people, even when I go to a weekday in the summer. But I want to show you this one factory. This is a really important building in North Korea because this is where they make Vinylon.
Like, why do they just have giant, like, amusement park installations, but no one is at them? No one is doing anything at them. It's just, it's like, well, why? Why are you building all this stuff? It's so bizarre.
Vinylon is a fabric that you can make not with wool or cotton, but with coal and limestone, which is something they have a lot of in North Korea. So as a part of the push for self-reliance, North Korea produces this synthetic material called Vinylon. They use it for uniforms. Like a lot of clothing in North Korea is made with this really tough, scratchy, durable Vinylon material. They use it for curtains. They kind of use it for everything. It's the North Korean national fabric. So this is their biggest Vinylon factory right here. And it's so important that the leader came to the reopening when they renovated this thing. So yeah, Vinylon is made with coal. They mine a lot of coal in North Korea. If you zoom into this port in Hamhung, you'll see really gnarly looking yellow pollution.
That sounds terrible. Like that would you want to wear clothing made out of coal and limestone? That does not sound Utopia-like at all. That sounds horrid.
But you'll also see ships with coal aboard. You'll see all this coal getting ready to be shipped out, basically all of it going to China and potentially violating sanctions, but that's not what we're looking into right now. Let's go to another city, but this one is interesting. It's up north, right in the shadow of Mount Pektu. This is a nice looking city. It's home to this ice rink. It's got a ski hill up here. There's, of course, the required children's traffic park. This was a big construction project for Kim Il-sung. And it's meant to show the world that North Korea is open for tourism, especially here in the shadow of their holy mountain. And look, this thing went up really fast. There's evidence that to make this thing go so fast, they used this youth construction brigade, which is a bunch of young people who do construction labor for like 10 to 12 hours a day as a way to like show their loyalty to the party and potentially move up in the ranks to move out of like their social class, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit.
This district was pretty much empty before it started, and in the space of within a couple of years or even a year, all of this was built. We don't know much about the construction standards, but they do build very fast.
But yeah, when you control every human in the country, you can build this stuff really quick. Now, whether or not this is good quality stuff is another question. Like I've seen videos of some of these houses in the mountains that like have ice on the inside of the window. So we're not sure if this is, you know, good construction, but boy, they're building stuff fast. Okay, let me show you a few more of these cities. Okay, let's go to Chongjing, port city here on the East Coast. Got some gnarly industrial stuff going on here. Home to these very cookie cutter looking homes. Here they produce textiles, rubber, steel. They build trains. They've got a big power plant. And you can see out here in the water, this is where a lot of shipping comes in and out of the country. Look at all these vessels. I mean, not a lot relative to most countries, but you know, got all this gnarly industrial stuff doing steel. You can see that they're shipping stuff out. There's coal, some of these minerals. A lot of mining happens, which, as we will see, usually is the work of political prisoners deep in the mountains working a life sentence of hard labor. But yeah, for now, let's just look at this. I mean, some of this stuff just looks like a wasteland, but you know, that's industry for you. But then all of that steel production is happening right next to these tightly packed homes, just endless homes. You've got your required empty boulevard, traffic park. Here's their train station. Here's the big central square. This one's really ornately designed. Let's see if anything happens if we go back in time. Oh, they just built this. This is 2020. Look at this thing go up. Looks nice. Statues of the two leaders, sports stadium. And if you look at these big blue roofs, you will see something that you wouldn't expect to see in North Korea. This is the home to a market where thousands of vendors buy and sell things all day here in the socialist, communist, anti-capitalist utopia of North Korea. So the story here is that back in the 90s, when the Soviet Union fell, North Korea was hit very hard because they were very reliant on aid from the Soviet Union. Mass famine spread throughout the whole country, and this region was very deeply hit. So it gave rise to this really resourceful black market. Homemade goods, smuggled goods, sort of bartering, trading. Between a couple 100,000 to a couple million people died during this famine. And the black market was the only way that a lot of people lived and still live today. So in 2008, the government tried to crack down on this. This is like very anti-North Korean, like letting people buy and sell and smuggle stuff in. This is like not North Korean. So they cracked down, and the mostly women merchants in this city protested. You don't see that in North Korea. They marched to the city government office, and there was like a big confrontation, and they basically said like, we won't be able to live if you cut us off of this.
Where North Korea has started to change has been the sort of underground economy. It has become somewhat tolerated under Kim Jong-un, these kind of illicit markets.
And today, the government continues to...
So that's what I was talking about earlier, how they've lightened up on some things because you just, like, out of practicality, you have to, or else, I mean, you can't keep this level of control over a population if they are kept in constant starvation. So oftentimes, like I said, you'll see this like lightening up of certain things so that they can keep control.
Let this happen. This one we're looking at with the blue roof is a big example of that, but it's not the only one, not even close. These markets are now all over the country. So a lot of people get their stuff on this kind of black, gray, informal market, which has turned into a massive network of trafficking stuff in, usually from China and almost always illegally.
Individual smugglers that will bring stuff literally across the river that divides North Korea and China. Sometimes those trading companies will, in the back of the truck, in addition to the shipment they're meant to be bringing in, bring a few other things in as well. And then that will kind of flow into the black market that way.
Back in the famine days, it was just the essentials. It was just rice and corn, just basic food. But with time, it started to become a more sophisticated private market. And today you can get all kinds of cheap Chinese products. I mean, China is like the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, and they are right there next to North Korea. There's a lot of ships and trucks coming back and forth between the two countries, which serves as the arteries for this black market. A lot of these goods end up in these markets. Here's one in Pyongyang. There's a part of me that wants to do a whole video on these markets because they are very interesting. The whole informal economy of North Korea is something I might do a video on. If you're interested in that, let me know, because man, I want to pull on that thread. But real quick, there's two things that I feel like I'm learning about North Korea because of this informal market system. Number one, North Korea's very survival is thanks to the presence of China. China, this massive manufacturer, rapidly developing country, is a lifeline for North Korea, both in the formal trade as well as the informal black market. And the second thing that this kind of confirms for me is just how much the centrally planned communist government does not work. It does not actually work to allocate goods and services to the people. This country would not be able to survive without the black market. So in addition to China, the black market is the only way that a lot of North Koreans survive. But you can see how risky this can become, these informal markets, because the regime only works because it controls every aspect of people's lives. So these black markets are relinquishing some of that control. So every once in a while they crack down, they go in, they like break up the markets, they make sure to extract fees, they make sure that this doesn't get too out of control. Anyway, the markets are endlessly fascinating. One other thing you see in Chongqing is up here. This is a prison camp. Prison camps always have economic activity attached to them. And further up the valley, you've got this re-education camp deep in the valley for anyone who shows disloyalty to the regime. This one's for just over 1,000 men who don't live in these homes. That's for like the officials. They live within these walls and they spend their time mining copper and iron, cutting logs, making bricks, and farming. This is where we should talk about the prison camps, because this one that we just saw in the city, there's a lot of those. They exist in cities. Some are just typical prisons. Some are re-education camps, but there are way bigger ones, and they're up in the mountains, and they represent what I see as the most egregious version of North Korea's many human rights abuses. What's happening inside of these shapes is some of the worst stuff we can imagine. This is pretty upsetting stuff. I'm not going to go into like super detail, but let me just show you these 4 major prison camps, where they are, what they have inside of them, and who gets sent to them, and why and how, and everything we know. You get sent to a prison camp for kind of anything. If you show any rebellion or disrespect to the party or the leader. If you're a public official who messed something up, you get sent to one of these. Just being accused of wrong thinking can get you sent to one. And it's not just you and your family, it is also your children and your grandchildren that aren't even born yet. This system detains multiple generations of someone they've deemed a political prisoner. Now, officially, none of this exists. North Korea laughably says that they do not have any such political prison system, but here they are.
There's actually around 700 penal facilities. Okay, now that goes from short-term detention sites, that you're there for a weekend, to those massive, 50,000 people concentration camp style sites.
And they have these names like Camp 14, Camp 11, and they're often on these huge tracts of land. Here's one up in the north. Like this is like, we're deep in the mountains here. Like, look at this. This is the prison camp. There are guard posts and fences. Some of these aren't completely fenced in 100%, but like, if you look closely, you will see fences here cut into this forest. If you look real close, you can see a guard post. And within these camps, it's not just adults. You've got a lot of children. Many of them were born in the camp. They know nothing different. And what you'll see inside these prison camps is a lot of economic, productive activity being done through forced hard labor. So like up here, you've got this coal mine. That's a big one. That's one of the reasons all of this stuff's in the mountains. Then you have a lot of farmland up here as well. Livestock. There's even a distillery here, maybe making some kind of...
So you see they are using the class of people that they have deemed, this labor camp class of people to do a lot of the manual labor work, digging out the resources, making the things, right? So not very Utopia-like, I would say, but communists, this is what they do and this is how they operate. So
hard alcohol to be shipped to Pyongyang. You've got a factory here. You've got a school, probably for the guards' children. The children in these camps are made to work from the time they are 4 to 6 years old. And the work hours are 10 to 12 hours long for everyone in this camp. Unpaid, forced prison labor. The conditions are horrific. People are on the verge of starving and often have to fight for resources. But you'll also see that even within these prison camps, it kind of feels like a North Korean city. It's like a little microcosm, a little mini version of the North Korean cities. Like, look, you've got a central square with a monument. You'll see murals of the great leaders. You'll have these indoctrination centers, a school. I want to know more about these schools. It's like a little mini city. These big ones, there's like 20,000 people who will live here. They are fenced in for the most part. Most people who come into this prison camp never leave. The people who are born here will never leave. These are life sentences, and it really gets its roots from the old Soviet days where so much control and power was wrought from just having the threat of this thing that the UN has called a human rights abuse with no parallel in modern times. Like, this is a level of control and deprivation that doesn't really exist anywhere close to this degree.
20 odd million people that are basically prisoners to a system that they can't change.
This is kind of like a condensed version of that, a prison within a prison. Now, there's obviously a lot more study that's been done and visual analysis from satellite imagery. In our sources, you can read some of the human rights groups' reports on this, where they've done sort of a deep dive and annotation. I've just done a quick overview here. And to contrast the prison camps, let's go to Wonsan, where I found one of Kim Jong-un's palaces. We can really show you what Kim Jong-un does with this power that he's extracted from his people. So this is Wonsan, and up here, you got your empty square with the circles, you got a port. Then up here, you've got this international children's camp where kids from all around the world come to partake in North Korean fun and sport every year. And then right here is the Kim family compound. Look at this, right on the beach. It's got this private beach with all kinds of security barriers. It's got all of these massive structures, big yard, a shooting range, and right here next to it, of course, a railroad just in case the guy has to scurry away in case of an invasion or something. So he's always got an escape plan. So while the 100,000 North Koreans are imprisoned up in the mountains, Kim Jong-un has his residence here on the beach. I've known this, I've known that North Korea is crazy, but to see the prison camps and then to see this is just, it's fairly sickening to me. So when you're out here in rural North Korea, like I've been a lot lately, you stumble upon a few weird things. Check this out. Like, you'll get this, like, this looks like maybe an anti-aircraft battery, like a military installation. Maybe you're in this red earth. Then you get these like really peculiar looking housing blocks that are just eerily symmetrical. They're kind of everywhere out in the rural area. And they are often built next to a farm. I've never seen villages like this anywhere in the world from the sky. They're just so clearly deeply planned. But what I'm learning is that this is how a lot of stuff gets made in rural North Korea, a lot of the farming. Like, look at this. See all these houses? All of these houses, which look identical to each other, they are all a part of this factory. This is a factory that makes, let's find out. Boom. There we go. Fruit. This is a fruit processing factory. Out here, way out in rural North Korea. And all of these homes are the people who work in the fruit factory. Something Jacob pointed out to me is that a lot of these are duplexes, meaning two families live here, and you can see this is their backyard, and they have kind of a separator. So they have this little plot of backyard. This is their community. You are assigned a job here, and you work here. I don't see a car anywhere on these roads.
You mentioned cars. Of course, private ownership of vehicles isn't really a thing in North Korea, so there's no need for parking spaces.
You are living here and working here for your whole life. I see some people biking, some people walking, but the other thing you see are these vast complexes of greenhouses. Kim Jong-un has been going nuts on greenhouses, building as many as he can. This was an airport for some reason. But over time, this airport got turned into a massive greenhouse complex. Kim Jong-un has been doing this. And in fact, just a short time, this is 2022. And this is today. Like, man, they build stuff fast, it seems. So one way that North Korea works is by just assigning people jobs and having them live and work in the exact same place. But man, I get really mesmerized out here in rural North Korea looking at the configuration of the housing. Okay, but we have to talk about the capital. I know everyone's wondering, like, the capital, it's the most interesting. I've been holding off because I feel like the capital gets so much coverage, and I'm interested in, like, these rural, like, backwaters. But let's talk about the capital. In order to understand Pyongyang and, like, what it is, you have to understand this concept of Songbun. Basically the caste system for North Korea. It's how they subdivide the people. And like once you're in one class, you're in one class, and like your kids are in that class too, and you can maybe move up or maybe move down. If your grandpa was like supportive of the Japanese or wasn't super loyal during the revolution, then you are a part of the hostile class. Like you are not to be trusted, you are not loyal, you will have the worst jobs, the worst opportunities, you will get the worst punishments. The wavering class are kind of the middle ground, and they are more trusted. They're still on thin ice like everyone, but they have more opportunities. They get better healthcare, they get better schools, better food. But the core class, those are the top dogs. They're party officials, they're the elites. And those are the people who live in Pyongyang. They live in a completely different world than the rest of the country. The capital, which is a pretty wild looking place. Here on Google Earth, they've put these little 3D renderings of like the big super wild hotel at the center of town that actually looks really awesome and cool and wild, but it's totally empty. At least that's what the reports say. It's just a big piece of propaganda. Part of it is that with these buildings, because of like,
see what I mean? Totally empty. It's totally empty. And they're about to say it's because of electricity, but then you see all these things with lights on them. So it's really, so maybe they have blackouts or something. I don't know. But like, why would you have just an empty building like that? Like, why wouldn't any of the elite people live in it? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Electricity is so flaky in North Korea. You actually don't want like a high-rise like penthouse, because if you're like at the 30th floor and the power goes out, you're walking 30 floors of steps. So the most desirable apartments, according to Martin, the expert interviewed, are the ones on the bottom floors. Okay, so Pyongyang has big old stadium, monuments, big grand boulevards, lots of buses. So much transportation happens on buses in North Korea. And as you're rolling around here, you see a lot of like pretty peculiar architecture.
A throwback to Soviet era when cities were laid out on a template and you had, brutalist architecture and everything, and just rows of apartments and no real like suburban landscape.
All these theme parks are empty parking lots all the time. It is like, just a snapshot in time. So we don't actually know, but I've never seen anyone in these. Although, check out this promo video from this water park.
you see what I mean? Like, where are all the people? Why is everything empty? Even when he was looking at that rural area, that's still not very much, you know?
You start to see that like a lot of this stuff is built to show the outside world that North Korea can do this, and to show, you know, fellow North Koreans that North Korea can do this. That is a massive part of construction in this.
But then why wouldn't nobody use it? Why is no one using it? Why isn't at least the higher class using it? Like, why? It's just so weird.
Country. It's not about serving the broader people as much as it is about telling a story. So many sports, like sports are a big part of North Korean culture. Kim Jong-un's got his little signature buildings here. Every leader has a different style, and Kim Jong-un is just doing it with these curvy apartment buildings. One thing you see here is churches. There's a bunch of random churches in Pyongyang. One of them is this Eastern Orthodox Church, which North Korea built for their good friend Russia. Here's Vladimir Putin in this Eastern Orthodox Church. Oh, but here's a Protestant one. Founder of the country Kim Il-sung had a mother who was a Protestant. And apparently she was a deacon here in this church. So they restored this church, and it's sort of like a symbol that, like, look, North Korea believes in freedom of religion. But they, to be clear, do not. Religion is not widely practiced in North Korea for obvious reasons. Now, what I love about Pyongyang is it takes the whole, like, big boulevard, grand streets that are empty to a whole new level. I mean, look at this. Here's where the great leader used to live. This was their palace. And coming off it is this big, grand square, empty. And coming off that, there's this grand boulevard that is just so grand and so empty. It goes down through this big, beautiful roundabout, keeps going through a tunnel to another big, beautiful, mostly empty roundabout. There's a car. And now it enters into this massive grand, like, this is, you would expect a urban design like this in, like, Mexico City or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lanes going into this grand intersection for the 4 cars that are here. I mean, it's mesmerizing to look at, right? So anyway, that is the grand boulevard that leads up to this palace that the leaders used to live in. The leaders don't live here anymore now. Kim Jong-un lives instead up here. See if I can find his house from memory now that I've been staring at it nonstop. Boom, there it is. Found it. Okay, here he is. He lives up in this big compound up on the hill. This big boy. This is his main residence in the city. I'm looking at my data set from Jacob, and you see potential underground entrances to these heavily secured compounds and bunkers. For how much we know these folks like to dig, you can imagine that behind Kim Jong-un's house, there are tunnels and bunkers. We don't know that, but I presume there probably is. Now, Google Maps being what it is, someone put a concentration center label right over the hill from Kim Jong-un's house. I asked the experts about this, and they're like, no, that's not a there's not a concentration camp on the other side of Kim Jong-un's house. It's probably a barracks where his bodyguards live. Don't believe everything you see on Google Maps, folks. So yeah, Pyongyang is a place that could look fairly developed and nice. And indeed, the imagery from Pyongyang does look fairly nice in some views, because this is where the elite live, the core class. This is where the output from all of the horrific abuse and slavery that's happening out in the countryside comes to benefit. And this is the center of power for the regime. Oh, and something you can't see here, but that you see in a lot of, like, tourist videos is the very deep underground train system. They've got a subway that is very nice looking, and boy, I wish I could go there and visit and see it someday, but I probably will never do that for obvious reasons. Okay, I want to finish this video talking about the thing we can't really see on this map, which is the people.
They are regular people like you and I, and they have dreams and ambitions. They just want to have some food and enjoy themselves and go out with friends and just kind of have a happy life.
Despite all the horrors of this place, there are wholesome, meaningful traditions and rituals that still endure. The Lunar New Year, or the Harvest Festival, brings people together to celebrate. The extreme poverty limits their feasts, but They often consist of homemade alcohol, simple rice cakes, and something poverty and totalitarianism can't totally take away, which is community, the nourishment of relationships. As we've seen, most people can't really move around in the country, so they stay in one place, which defectors have reported leads to a sense of intimacy and connection with the community they live next to. They lean on each other, they survive because of each other, they celebrate together, and they seem to find meaning despite all the limitations and all of the control. One defector went so far as to say, "Everything was suffocating and pitiful in North Korea, but it is a country that I have many positive memories from. So if someone asks me, what is North Korea like? I say, North Korea is a nice place with plenty of love."
And that's, I think, one of the things that's often forgotten when we look at North Korea in the traditional media, because people having a happy.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. The way that we view other countries that we dislike or whatever, for obviously clearly reasons when we're talking about North Korea. But we often don't look at the people like as humans, as humanity, and how, you know, what their experience is, and they still experience some form of humanity. They love their children, they love each other, they have, you know, community and society, and they are able to endure and move on and brush their hair and brush their teeth and read to their kids whatever they have and have dinners and enjoy each other's company. And even though it's hard, and even though they're poor, and even though they're super, you know, suppressed. And so often we just we have a really surface level view of people when we're seeing them in the media or when we're, you know, discussing. And that's something I try to avoid.
Happy life is not newsworthy, but a military parade or a nuclear test or a missile launch or something is newsworthy.
Yeah. So just leaving you with a reminder that there's more to this country than the horrible realities that we've seen here or that we often see on the news. If you want a deeper look on this angle of the country, there's a book called Nothing to Envy, which is a great human level account of life in North Korea. So thank you all for being curious with me as we looked at this map to understand more about this secretive country. Let me know what you want me to cover next, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, so what do you guys think? Pretty weird. The North Korea Utopia theory, especially the underground paradise version, is a fascinating example of how mystery breeds imagination. It's entertaining, creatively rich, and taps into deep distrust of mainstream stories. But the weight of historical evidence, defector accounts, and scholarly work like Lankove's points to a repressive system that promised utopia and delivered something far darker. These stories remind us to stay curious and skeptical, both of the regime's propaganda and the wildest counter-narratives. So what do you guys think about this theory? I find it to be honest with you, I find it a little disrespectful of what the people there have to go through and what they're living through and the reality of the situation, to be so flippant about it, but it is weird. So I kind of understand why people would, you know, think about it in thought experiment type ways and come up with these ideas, because it is weird, it is secretive, we don't know much about it. It's strangely empty, but yet weird buildings, and it's a weird mind game, I guess. It messes with your mind when you look into it and think about it and stuff like that. But let me know what you guys think. Have you ever heard of this theory before? It's kind of a weird one. It's very fringe. Probably not a lot of people have heard about it. Let me know what you guys think below, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so for everyone who's still here at the end of this video, I want to show you guys something interesting. This is especially for my subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe now so this can also be for you. So you guys know how YouTube is always threatening me with alien abduction. So I'm a little out of hot water because I've gained a good amount of subscribers. I'm not completely out of hot water yet, but I feel like a little bit of the ire of them being really, aggressive has kind of faded a little bit. So I have something to show you guys. That's crazy. Look at that, like blends in. Okay, so this is my main hub, right, for all my stuff at the moment. So this is where you can join my community, which would be awesome if you guys anybody would do that. But this is what I want to show you guys. I made this shirt. It says, I saved TEJ, the eclectic journalist, from abduction. Okay. So I made these for my awesome subscribers who subbed, and let me know what you guys think about that. Let me make it big. Hopefully you guys can see that. And that comes in a couple of different colors, but I thought these were the only ones that looked okay on, because it definitely looks good on black. Okay, so I just thought that was pretty funny and cute. Hopefully you guys enjoy that shirt, and let me know what you guys think about that. Okay, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or evening, whatever time it is for you, and I will see you next time on The Eclectic Journalist.